Hello friends, let's take a look at Tezos. Now, of course, the story remains more or less the same. I'm not going to say that the story has changed a lot because the story hasn't changed a lot. We know what the story is as well. We've been paying attention. Thanks so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and do all that stuff with us every day. Every day we do these videos. Now, I'm going to just get rid of that wee squiggly thing there and then draw in for the people who haven't been looking at this or just joining us today for the first time or whatever. Just to point out, you've got a high here and a high here, and those two highs look like a double top. Between double tops, you can get sometimes a curvy U-type formation going on there, and also it depends where you want to draw it in at. You could sort of say that is this space in that we're looking at instead, given that we had this volume candle here, kind of making it seem that way. You have this sort of dip down in volume and then sort of picking back up again as we came up towards these areas and all the rest of it, and it kind of ties in with what we've seen in Bukowski's book, as he points out that there's this thing called a cup and handle. Of course, he wasn't the one that came up with it first off. It was a guy called William O'Neill, I believe, and he only ever really looked at them in bull markets, and they were continuation patterns, and it was Bukowski that added on the inverted concept for it because he's Mr. What's one way must flip in reverse on the chart. That's what he loves to do. Everything's got his inverse. Anyhow, so William himself at the minute, I think, would be looking at this and saying, and I'm sure he's still alive, he came up with it in like 1984, he'd be looking at this and saying, do we have a cup and handle on the go, and can we see something like, for instance, this here, where we came down and touched the 50% retrace line at 3,100, can that actually be the point at which we've managed to say that we've gone far enough on this one and retraced enough? It's a common retrace area, as we know, ever since like the 1930s when Dow started telling folk about it, or 1910 or 1890, whatever, who cares, back in the day, they're all deed new. And if we look up to the 382, then we can see that the prices actually came up above this 382 Fibonacci retracement, having touched off the 50% there. So we know, again, and I hate doing this because it's too much, but it's too much, you know, it's just way too much. But just to point this out for people, and I think this will be the last time I do it for quite a while, that the 236 Fibonacci is here. So we've come up here and we've broken past, we've tested past the 236, sunk down below it again. Need to see the prices going up above 3,266 to be looking at a retracement of that move overall here on this one. But you know, whatever, we're in this phase, and the handle part of it could even go further on in terms of how far has it come so far in percentages. Well, it's nearly 20%, and that is satisfactory for sure in terms of that, but it could even go down further than that to these previous lows down here at 2,930. So I could keep sort of banging on about it till then, but I don't want to see that happen. The VPVR, which has been staring us in the face this entire time over here, I think speaks for itself, does it not? This area here is where you want to see the prices turn around at before going into this area where there's been less trading in the past and being picked up again, where we saw the other sort of previously we had this price action in there. My lines are a mess there, but that's cool. That's kind of what we're looking at. Oh, back to link. Don't want to go to link. Get off link. Bitcoin, Tezos. So that's what we're looking at. In terms of the oscillators, we have a somewhat downward trend. Don't want to really look at too much on the daily time frame. There's not enough there for that. Go down to the 12-hour time frame and see if we can say this is a low and this is a low, and are they divergent, and well, they're not. And there's only one high, so you can't look for that hidden stuff. Go down to the 4-hour time frame and look for that divergence and say, well, hey, on the MACD it is. That's fair enough. That kind of spins out as a story where we can say, well, you know, if we get if this comes in here and down and blah, 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 you know, we've got a tightening conversion pattern on the go. In terms of the 4-hour time frame, you could say this is some sort of falling wedge. It's only got 2 touches so far, 3 on the bottom side, perhaps 2 on the top. Maybe we get another touch there and think about things, come back a bit, maybe we break it afterwards. Doesn't really matter. It's too small a time frame for that to be important. Just generally the point being that you have a downward sloping line and the resistance towards the top side coming in there, and even if you just sort of channel it out there overall, which you totally absolutely could do, then you can look in between these areas, and breaking above this line at 33,000 or 3,300 will obviously be our first sort of like indicator to us that we're doing something positive and maybe turning this area around. It's not divergent on the RSI, so this downward sort of trend can continue. And on the stochastics, if we look at it, well, you know, there's this kind of almost got to be divergent, but isn't quite yet. Maybe we see a little bit more. Maybe we try this again. I don't know. There's you know, these are just the different things that we need to look at in terms of this operating as resistance. resistance for us, potentially this previous area where there was support at in the past. That's not quite straight, you know, that's also in that 33,000 area, so, or 3,300 area, so, you know, prices going up to 3,450 and 60 and stuff like that can be quite positive for us. Undo this Fibonacci retracement that we have here on this thing and start getting on with the post handle type formation. That could be our handle for us. It could be coming up to being done right in this zone here. If we need to see it getting finished off and being done down at 2,860, that would be the last place that I would be wanting to remain bullish on this sort of pattern overall. Let's go to the dollar prices and point out a few things then for us. Oh, look at that exclamation mark. I must have put that in for a reason. The prices are up here, managed to come up as high as that at $3 and then have sunk back down again since. What we have a bit of bearish divergence on the go between these. This is the 4-hour time frame. RSI is bearishly divergent, the stochastics is bearishly divergent, the MACD is bearishly divergent. Going up to the 12-hour time frame, looking between the previous two highs, we have a little bit of bearish divergence on all three of those oscillators as well. Looking up towards the daily time frame, what do we have between this high and this high? If you want to call this a low, you also have that divergence. Just generally speaking, in terms of this overall structure here as being the high in total compared to the previous high in the past, the RSI and the stochastics aren't actually divergent, but the MACD is showing us divergence there between the two previous highs. So there are some warning signs for us as we're looking at this. Previous areas to be aware of course, as well, where we've got that 236 on this particular chart. We can imagine the prices getting resisted in at $3.20. We can imagine the prices as well potentially turning around at $3.30 where we have a 786 retracement, not just because of those Fibonacci retracements, but because we had this structure in the market before. We had previous areas where this was our sort of our lower high as part of a downward trend, but also we had our sort of our previous to the previous higher high on the way up at 350. These sorts of things that could be coming in there, but in general, that whole area where there will be a degree of supply available for people in that area. And if you might remember when we look back at different prices, things like the Tezos thing in the past, you know, or the hit BTC chart in the past. I don't know if you're tuning in back then or not necessarily, of course, but when we spoke about this whole area over here, how there's a degree of supply, of course, available for the market in that area, of a degree of people would have been holding on to their capital at these points here, saying, you know, if it ever comes back up to 270 and stuff, then I'll sell. If it ever comes back up to 390, then I'll sell. And if it ever comes back up to 540 or whatever, then I'll sell. So we know that there's areas in the past which will operate as the potential supply dump zones for us. And the most previous one, of course, is always your previous high, exactly as over there where we had that happen at. So anyway, what goes for us? Well, the beat goes on more or less. We're still inside this channel that we kind of adjusted, I think, in yesterday's episode, but whatever. We're still inside this, and just stretch it, just pulling it on a wee bit up there to sort of like I don't want to adjust it all the time, just wanted to show that, you know, we could still be in this for a while. If we're still inside this, you've got the median line of it operating in around here at the sort of 270 area, and we know that we've got this line that we've seen touched in the past as well at 258 as being our sort of support zone that we really want to see being held and not coming back down to previous lows. But you know, if we have to, then again, the sort of the way we have to line 230 being the sort of the we're, you know, okay with that happening at. Overall, as part of this overall structure, we'd still be getting in a sort of higher low, so to speak, if you consider this chunk here to just be, you know, part of the overall high as opposed to this being a high and then this being a high and this being a low and whatever else in between times. But if that was your low, then of course you're looking at 273 as being supported territory, and we can see there's got a horizontal line in there, so you would think it would be from the past, which was previously resistance and support, and it's now flipped back to being support. We can say it's been tested and it's worked so far. And we have this downward sloping area that we've spoken about enough times as well, having over the last 3 days now, one today, yesterday, 2, the day before 3, acted as resistance for us towards the top side. So we know that the $3 area is quite significant price point for the dollar price on Tezos, and breaking above there is what is that. And I just want to point it out one last time, I suppose, it's the 236 from the monster Fibonacci retracement. So you could be looking up to areas like where we have up here, that would be the 382, and that's up there at 480. And of course people will start pulling down their pants, shitting on the floor and getting swifty, if you like Rick and Morty, if you saw that happening. But the first port of call, of course, is in this area where we saw our previous highs at. So that's $3.20. So, when you're still looking at big solid 10% moves, a lot of trading to be had in and around those areas as well. Should you go up, from where we are now to $3.20, or from that support line there up to $3.20 is a 15% move. $3 and is this 7, whatever, you get the point. There's solid moves to be had all over the shop, and of course we can expect there to be resistance in this area, as we saw in the past in this chunk here as well. So that's still what we're looking at, still overall the case, and there still is the argument to be had as well about whether or not you could stick this in as a line going up like that. Take the chart. Yeah, keep it on lock for this and ask, does this bottom line converge at all? And in fact, overall, it doesn't really. So you're still in this channel. I was going to say that you could maybe say there's a wedge, and I thought maybe we were looking at that on linear, but we're looking at it on log. And if I put it back onto linear for a second and point out how that channel doesn't fit, maybe that's why I was having to adjust it at the start, then, you could say that that's maybe what we're looking at there, just for an adjustment on this thing. So like whatever, it's really these things are always kind of subjective to and if you want to force the issue on it. I'm not, when I have it on log though, you can see the way that the prices move around a significant amount. In this here. It's not as it's easier on log to say that it's inside some sort of shape than it is on the linear one as it happens, overall. And instead I just kind of go back to the sort of the simpler sense of looking at our previous highs and lows and the horizontal areas here. It's easier to see that on linear and to say, look, overall we managed to come in higher than the previous area, and that's our first sort of port of call for resistance and support that we want to see getting broken. And I think that ties in probably with any Fibonacci type chat that we had earlier on as well. So what is that again? Is that just, that's 287? So 287 would be good to see happening. And if we go back, if we bring up the oscillators again and just kind of revisit them, this high versus our previous high is bearishly divergent across all three of the oscillators down below. If you consider this to be, like we're saying, there's the two ways looking at it. Is this actually overall just the one high coming in, or is this the previous high? So if it wasn't, and this was the previous high back here, then this area is not divergent, on any of those oscillators. So that's interesting to see. And of course, what we spoke about as well is they've got this upward trend and support line here on the stochastics. It's on the RSI as well, for instance, there. And will we see this operated support? And look what's happened at the minute is we've seen the operated support before, we've seen the prices coming in, and we're just in and around this area. So can we see if the prices can go up and challenge those areas of $3, and we continue this and going into this overbought territory and doing some fantastic sort of things here with the prices and able to put in higher highs and whatever else. If not, then you're looking at in terms of just where the sheer highs have been, in the past, then we've not actually come in as high as they've been, so we could still kind of can do that sort of chat. But it's worth bearing in mind that as the highs are coming in up here before, that's where we saw the turnaround in the market, in this overbought territory, and before then it was over here in September we saw another drop down and stuff. So that that is very high up there. There's the sort of the interim case to be made as well for whether or not we're in a sort of shape like this too. So there's all those sorts of things to be had there on the price action. I think that's shown already on this other chart over here, is it not? Where we're looking at. We've not got it on the other chart. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. I think I kind of lost the plot there, didn't I? I lost my enthusiasm or whatever, my momentum I lost it during this episode at some point. I think this here, trying to remember what exactly I was talking about at the time when we were talking about that there is what's throwing me off. And if it was because we had a wedge, let's go all the way back, undo all of my non-talk and just say yeah. So up here, breaking out of this down. I don't know, not really. The overall, this thing could just reset and everything would be fine, you know. But what we could see happen is it come down towards the. I suppose maybe I was just talking about this being up so high and how there's this. I don't really know what I was talking about there with this. I'm going to have to remove it off there. This is what I meant as well when I said that I'll spend more time trying to figure out what the hell I was talking about when I leave stuff on the chart sometimes than if I just did it again fresh, you know, overall. So anyway, I suppose really just overall in terms of the if we're going in a set lows, I want to see 259 hold as we've been speaking about before. Should that not work, then 230, and I can still remain bullish on this. But after that, especially at 215, then I'll start to. This 215, I suppose, is my Alamo really for me right now. And in terms of where we've come from and where we're going. Anything, you know, we're doing really well. This is just purely speculative. For just being purely speculative and going up sort of wick to wick here on this more or less and saying where's the 236? Well, it comes in right at that 259 area, so that kind of doubles down on the importance of that. And the $3 I think speaks for itself towards the top side and breaking up past that. Sorry for losing my sort of my for getting a little bit confused, losing the plot slightly in this. I didn't lose the plot. Don't be silly. It's just the momentum goes and you know, I don't want to have to remake it or whatever. I still say some good things. And yeah, that's good enough. Thanks very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you've got a friend out there you think might appreciate these episodes, then of course share it with them. I want to say a shout out to Rosa77, Ross in Dublin, who's been tweeting stuff that I've been posting, which has been really, really great. So thank you so much to him. And of course the whole Tezos community. In fact, on Twitter and all the rest of it, the Tezos community is really great. They're really positive, more positive than a lot of other coin fans. So I would say that's really great. And I like the Tezos community, so big shout out to all of you. In fact, thank you so much. And of course to the friends that we've already had, the long-time friends that are in the Discord, come along, say hi to them, join the Discord down below, leave a comment down below, all that jazz, and join the family. You know, there's a lot of Rocky Outcrop out there at the minute, and we're all very eager to meet you because a friend of yours is a friend of ours. So of course, introduce us. Thanks so much. Catch you next time.